Welcome in, Dween Nation. We are the Dween Sports Podcast, and we are just about to get started. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share so we can continue to be your fantasy sports podcast. Thanks for being part of Dween Nation, and enjoy the show.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pius, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and today is where fantasy championships are made and where it starts, because we have our favorite picks for the 2025 season, our league winners, aka our my guys, our my dudes, our guys that we're ride or die for 2025, guys that are going to win you your fantasy football leagues this season. And I just can't wait to dive into all of our names. We have 8 names, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. But before we dive into all that, how are you doing, my brother?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I am doing so great. We are a week away from kickoff. Preseason's already behind us. It's in the books, Justin. All the roster cuts. I know there's a couple last-minute tweaks that have been going around the league. But other than that, Justin, we are a week away from kickoff. The Dallas Cowboys, one of the most historic franchises, will be going to the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial to kick off the season. I mean, what a game. I'm hoping it's a shootout, Justin. We might talk about a player or two from that matchup, perhaps. Not spoiler, but other than that, Justin, I am so excited. This is going to be such a fun NFL season. This is year 2 for us. So we're coming in hot. We're coming in with a lot of fire there, Justin. And I'm so excited. This is actually one of my favorite videos to talk about, Justin. As you mentioned, this is part 1 of how fantasy championships are won. Some of it's on the waiver wire, but definitely here on this video for sure.
Yeah, I love everything you said. And honestly, the My Guys are my favorite episode of the year as well, because these are kind of the guys that we have our stamp of approval, are kind of like guys like mid-season. I'm going to be thinking back to, like, this was my guy pick. This is the guy I believed in. And, like, it's just the guy I'm, like, holding on to. There's an extra attachment to these players because we believe so much in them, and we want them to help you guys win fantasy football championships as well as us. But let's dive into our league winners, and I will kick us off with Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. This guy obviously is part of the arguable best offense in football. You have Jamar Chase. You have T. Higgins. Both guys got extended. You have Chase Brown, who's phenomenal, who I don't want to spoil it, but might be talked about a little bit later as well. I just think this Bengals offense is so chaotic in the best way possible. And with how bad the defense is for Cincinnati, I foresee the same kind of season we saw last year. But with expecting a healthy T. Higgins, I expect Burrow to hit that 5,000-yard mark and hit 50 touchdowns. That's how high I'm feeling for Joe Burrow. Last year, he did 4,900 yards, 43 touchdowns. And yes, they missed the playoffs, but they are extra hungry this year. And with the bad defense, they have to do even more. And this is where the big difference is. I think Joe Burrow starts this season out hot. Unlike he's done in literally every year of his career. He starts with the Cleveland Browns. It is in Cleveland. It is a division game, but I think he's going to torch them. And then he plays the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 2, which is another game that is just going to be lights out. So I love Joe Burrow. I understand for people in lower scoring touchdowns, they love the rushing quarterback. Yes, he doesn't offer you that rushing upside. But if you look at the tier he's in, he's offering similar points to guys like Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts and even Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think he finds himself in that tier. But the thing is, he's going at the very back part of all those guys, so you can get him at the most value compared to all the top-tier quarterbacks and still have a solidified week winner and league winner.
Justin, I love everything you said. I mean, honestly, I'm going to glaze Joe Burrow just a little bit. I mean, he has been fantastic since he's gotten in the NFL. And, obviously his rookie year, you can take that out the book because he did only play a few games and missed that whole season. And then 2023, I think he broke his forearm. But when you talk about 2021, that year they went to the Super Bowl, 34-14, he had 4,600 passing yards, okay? And then last year, or 2022, the year that they went to the AFC Championship and lost to Kansas City, he was 35 touchdowns to 12 picks, another 4,000 yards passing, 4,400, nearly 4,500 yards to be exact. Obviously, 2023 missed that whole season, or not the whole season, but half. He played up to week 7, broke his forearm or collarbone, something like that, and he was done for the year. But last year, he was literally like 80 yards away from 5,000 passing yards, 43 touchdowns, just to 9 picks. And then, and then you go to the depth chart. It's unbelievable. You got Jamar Chase, who is maybe one or two AB, best receiver in the league. You got T Higgins, who's possibly the best number one, but at number 2 spot, wide receiver in the league. And then you got Iosivas, who I love this year, Justin. I think he's going to have a big year. I'm thinking kind of like Tyler Boyd a couple years ago, a guy that gets you maybe 800 yards, maybe about 5 or 6 touchdowns, but still about 50, 60 catches a year. I do like Mike Gesicki if he's healthy. They also got Noah Fant and they got Drew Sample. So these are some tight ends that are quality, name tight ends there that Joe Burrow can look to outside of his receivers. I know Jermaine Burton is somewhat dealing with a knee injury. He's the wide receiver 4. I was a fan of his at Alabama. Who knows if he plays, but if he can be healthy, they can get him, about 10, 15 snaps a game. I would like to see how that would help out Joe Burrow. But other than that, you talk about those receivers and tight ends, and then you get 2 pretty good receiving backs in Chase Brown and Samaje Perine. I love it, Justin. I think that there's a chance that he could get 5,000 yards. I am praying nothing but health for the Cincinnati's Bengal team, because when they're healthy, they are so much fun to watch.
I completely agree. And the one last thing I'll throw in for Joe Burrow is look at this man's schedule. So obviously I told you how he starts the season. Cleveland, Jacksonville, Minnesota. Those are all shootout kind of games. And then if you look at the last 5 weeks of the season, he gets 2 matchups with the Baltimore Ravens, which is always a shootout. You get a matchup with the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a shootout. You get a matchup with the Miami Dolphins, which will be one of the worst defenses in the league. And then another bad defense in the Arizona Cardinals. So he has just a lineup of great matchups to end the season, which is where you will end up winning your league. So I am all on board with Joe Burrow. I'll throw it to you now, though, with your quarterback league winner in Bo Nix.
Justin, I love everything about the Broncos team. Their offense should be regarded as much as their defense is in fantasy. I feel like with Bo Nix, he's got year 2 now. He's not a rookie. I feel like, with Sean Payton being there, I just think that they're really going to be able to move the football much more easier, much more smoother. I remember this time last year, Justin, we were thinking Denver might not even win 5 games. And they ended up going to the playoffs, Justin. And, they almost beat Kansas City if it wasn't for a missed field goal. I want to say that was like week 14 or 15. And you know what? I think that Bo Nix has a tremendous offense. Him and Cortland Sutton are going to leave off where they left off. You bring in Evan Ingram, which we talked about yesterday. I absolutely love Evan Ingram this year, Justin. I think that Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, I know Marvin Mims is battling an injury, but I think that maybe they can, you just never know with Sean Payton. He's going to have his offensive guys. In some ways, he's a little bit like Andy Reid, where he'll find his guys, he'll find his targets. And I just feel like Bo Nix is going to be in a ton of shootouts this year. Not shootouts where defense can't hold, but I just feel like there's going to be big-time plays by Bo Nix. He has a really good arm. And then he has, Tennessee week 1. Indianapolis week 2, and then he goes to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. He's got Cincinnati. He's got Philadelphia. He plays the Jets. I want to say this is in England, overseas. And then they get the Giants, the Cowboys, and then Justin. And then towards the end of the year, he goes to Washington, Vegas, Green Bay, Jacksonville in the semifinals, which could be cake. And then he goes to Kansas City on Christmas Day, which could be a shootout there. Because there could be a chance that they're fighting for the division at that point, Justin. And so I love it. And also something tells me that there could be a little bit of a trade in the middle of the year that could get Bo Nix another guy. So I don't know. I can't tell you who I think it'll be, because you just never know what kind of drama unfolds throughout the season. And I feel like the Broncos might make a bold move to get a guy. I mean, hey, Justin, what if, they make a trade and get an Alvin Kamara in the backfield, and that helps his receiving corps? You just never know what the Broncos are going to do to make their team better, and I love it. And hey, I just feel like Bo Nix in year 2, he's more prepared. Sean Payton has a little bit more knowledge of what to get out of his team, and I just feel like he's going to be a league winner, especially come a fantasy playoff.
I think Bo Nix is a great league winner selection that you've made there, because if you look at him, he ended last year as the quarterback 7. And to me, that really is just like quarterback 4, because this guy really didn't get going until like weeks 4 or 5. So I don't even want to really consider the first 4 weeks that much going into his value, because once he took off, he was just phenomenal. Like I'll throw it to you here. Starting week 5 and on, he was the quarterback 5. So that's really when he became a guy, quarterback 5. He's currently going at quarterback 8, but everything around him improved. They add Pat Bryant, who I think is phenomenal. I think they added Evan Ingram, great addition. You add a capable rushing game, which some argue, that means they're going to run more, and Bo Nix isn't going to, get as many throws. Wrong. It means that defenses have to, prepare for not only Bo Nix but the rushing game, and with an improved receiving game, with all the weapons that Bo Nix has gotten, it's going to help Bo Nix just be more efficient, and they're going to score so often. I think this is great for them. The defense is going to give them so many opportunities on the offense. You have Sean Payton as your coach. You have a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. So why not? It lines up great. And you're right. The schedule really opens up for him too. I mean, like 3, the 2 Chiefs games you could argue are tough matchups, but it is the division. It's a division game. And then they play at Philadelphia one game. That's probably not a great matchup. But other than that, these are all, average to plus matchups, especially that week 13 to 16 stretch, Washington, Vegas, Green Bay, Jacksonville. I mean, that's right. That's 2 games in your fantasy playoffs. So I think you're completely correct that Bo Nix is in for a big season in 2025 and is a great league winner pick. We'll jump to me, which I'm continuing the Cincinnati Bengals Glaze Fest, if you may. And I'm going with Chase Brown as my running back league winner because this guy, when he became the starter post Zach Moss injury, he was, a top 3 back in fantasy. He was so good, and he really became so important to that late season run for the Bengals last year because when he became the guy, that's when the Bengals rattled off so many wins to get them in position to be a playoff team. And I love what their OC said during the offseason, that he views him as an Austin Eckler type back who is going to be a top 10 running back by the end of the season and a well-known name. So I'm following the breadcrumbs of those words from coaching staff on the Bengals, as well as the usage he's gotten in the preseason, as well as most of last season. And he's a guy going behind, he's going behind a lot of people. Now his value has jumped over the last 2 months. He was going in like the mid-3rd in July. Now he's jumped up to like late 2nd, mid-2nd. I still love that value there because I personally have him ranked over Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Ashton Genty. I have him over them because his upside on the best offense in football is tremendous. And yes, the Bengals are probably going to have to be throwing the ball a lot in games. I actually love that for Chase Brown. He is the lead receiving back for this team and probably could challenge guys like Alvin Kamara and Devon Achane as leading wide receivers out of the running back position.
Yeah, Justin, he had 11 total touchdowns last year, 7 rushing and 4 receiving, and he wasn't even the starter in the first couple weeks there. I think it was Zach Moss up until he got hurt. Could you just imagine that, Justin, if he played the full year? I mean, he would have definitely had it in 2022 or 23, Austin Eckler kind of type of season. Here's one thing, Justin. He was 10 yards short of 1,000 yards rushing, and so I'm excited to see if he can actually reach 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. And you know what? Receiving-wise, he did get about, 54 catches, 65 targets, only about 360 yards. Those numbers are all going to go up there, Justin, even the receiving touchdowns. And that's what makes him a league winner, Justin, because he might not need to rush for 100 yards, right? He could probably rush for 65 yards. If he doesn't get you a rushing touchdown, he'll still be able to get you 6 or 7 catches, a receiving touchdown, maybe another 50 yards receiving. And that's what's the beauty of Chase Brown, because there could be scenarios where maybe the Bengals are not looking to rush the ball, but still Chase Brown is in the mix. He's getting catches. He'll get receiving touchdowns. He might get little dump-off shovel passes that could result in touchdowns or 2-point conversions. So, I mean, Justin, that's something that Chase Brown is going to be really good at. And I understand why a lot of people are so excited for him. And in fact, I'd draft Chase Brown over like Genty or maybe like Puka Nacua, or even Nico Collins. Like I believe in Chase Brown. I think that he's going to get a ton of looks there. And I'm so excited to see what he's done. He makes this Cincinnati offense even more interesting.
Yeah. I love that. And I know this is not the bold predictions episode. That's saved for next week, but I'm just going to give you one, Dwayne Nation, that I just think might shock a lot of people. But my bold prediction here for Chase Brown, my league winner, my guy pick, is that he outscores Saquon Barkley in fantasy football this season. That's how hot and how the ceiling is there for Chase Brown to be, by the end of the year, a top 5 overall player in fantasy football. So that's what I got there. I'll throw it to you now for your running back breakout. Another guy who has so much potential, and Kenneth Walker.
Justin, I love Kenneth Walker. If you have him play the full season, I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal there, Justin. To start the season off last year, he did start off kind of hot. You know, he did play only 12 games. Some of those games he left early, he was dinged up, but he did score 7 touchdowns there, Justin. And I like this running offensive scheme that they have there. I think that Sam Darnold makes his team a little bit better than what Geno Smith had. Last year, Kenneth Walker, he did miss a ton of games. I think he missed the back part of last year. Still had 573 yards. And I think that he's going to be really good this year. We talked about Kubiak, the son of Gary Kubiak. I think he's there now. And this Kubiak, run offense dates all the way back to Gary Kubiak with my Texans, dates all the way back. The stuff you see with Kyle Shanahan, that was from his father, Mike Shanahan, that was behind historic rushing defense. And we're talking about Terrell Davis with 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl, winning MVP of the Super Bowl, leading a team off his back. I want to say that was the 98 postseason there, Justin, for the Denver Broncos. And all that comes back to right now, Kenneth Walker. He's a phenomenal back out of Michigan State. And I'd love him. I had him his rookie year where he had 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. And in the last 2 years, he's been battling injuries. I know 23, he also battled injuries, but still 900 yards and 8 touchdowns in 23. And then last year, he only played 12 games, 573, but 7 touchdowns. And he's also a great receiving back if they give him those looks there, Justin. He only had a receiving touchdown apiece the last 2 seasons, but I feel like he's definitely got a lot of upside from the receiving end. But I feel like with this offense, it's upgraded. I think that Sam Darnold brings just a different play call to this offense. Obviously, there's going to be packages for Jalen Milroe, rookie quarterback out of Alabama, and that's going to help things out, I believe. And I just feel like this schedule. Look at their schedule here. They do get San Francisco week 1. They get Pittsburgh week 2, which could be a tough game. But then, Justin, they get week 3, New Orleans, week 4 at Arizona. I like home with week 5 against the Buccaneers, week 6 cake against the Jaguars. So I'm really excited about this, Justin. Not to mention week 16, Los Angeles Rams, who got shredded by Saquon Barkley all year last year and really through the run all year. And then in the divisional round as well. And then week 17, Carolina. I mean, it just does not get better than that for Kenneth Walker. That is an absolute league-winning schedule, in my opinion. I just feel like this offensive line has gotten better. Mike McDonald there in his second year as head coach. With Kubiak calling the plays, I just think it's all destined. As long as he's healthy, Justin, he will have at least 1,500 yards, and I want to say about 9 or 10 touchdowns.
No, and that's the last thing you said is really the only doubt you could really have for Kenneth Walker is, will he be able to stay on the field? And my bet is, you can't just, obviously I think there's a discount you can put on a fantasy player because of injury. Like we've done that for Christian McCaffrey. Like he's not going the number 1 overall because he's got injury risk. You can bake that in for Kenneth Walker, but man, if he is on the field and healthy, he is going to be so dangerous. And yes, people are like, well, Charbonnet, he is going to take touches away from him. I don't really think so. That has not been the case when Kenneth Walker was active. I mean, I'm looking here, and Kenneth Walker in healthy games was getting 65% or more of the snaps. So he is by far the lead back. And I think that Charbonnet won't become a guy that dampens Walker's value. Charbonnet only is valuable if there is an injury to Walker. But let's continue talking about Walker. Before the injury that sidelined him for the rest of the season, so I'm counting weeks 1 through 12. Before that injury in week 13, I believe it was, he was 7th in points per game for the running back position. So he was that guy, and he was balling. And then you add in the fact that you discussed it, Clint Kubiak is there, who is a phenomenal run scheme play caller. And so I think that it's only going to help Kenneth Walker. They double down. I think they've even tripled down over the offseason that Kenneth Walker is the workhorse lead back for this team. And I know a good amount of people are upset or downgrading the Seahawks because they think they made a lateral move at quarterback or even possibly a downgrade going from Geno to Darnold. But I think that they did this intentionally. They know what they're getting into with Sam Darnold. And so I think that this offense is still going to be really solid. They add Gray Zabel in the draft in the first round, who I think is going to become a all-pro guard. I think he is phenomenal. And last little thing, Ken Walker, contract season. This is the big make it or break it a year for him because, if it doesn't work out, he doesn't get that contract he wants. He's about to be 25 years old, so this is kind of that big prime contract that he's going to get from a team. So I think you make a great pick here for Kenneth Walker to be a league winner in the running back position. I'll jump to me at wide receiver, which, yes, you do see two faces on here, so I will I'll go through both of them. I am kind of cheating here, but these are two guys I just think are so great, and I was just like 1A, 1B as for league winning values. But I'll start with Drake London. You look at him last year, and I know this is a very small sample size, and a lot of it came in one game, but in 3 games with Michael Penix last season, Drake London was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points. So I think him and Penix have a connection already. And if you look at the depth chart here for the Atlanta Falcons, Darnell Mooney's going to probably miss the first 4 weeks of the season, which is really unfortunate. But for Drake London, it means targets are even going in his direction more. I mean, they got Ray McLeod, Daryl Hodge, and of course, Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts. But Drake London's the clear alpha there. And I think that he is in line for probably a top 5 target share in the entire league. And if you look at how his season starts, we've been diving through schedules, and the Falcons have one of the easier schedules to me in fantasy football. Tampa Bay, that's going to be a shootout. Minnesota, same goes there. Carolina, Washington, bye week. Buffalo, San Fran, Miami, those are great games. New England, he's going to get shadowed by Christian Gonzalez probably. Don't love that. But then Colts, Panthers, Saints, and then he also has, the fantasy playoffs is Tampa, Arizona, and the Rams. So all games that I think Drake London can take advantage of and really be that piece that, yes, you're taking him in that mid to late second round now, but I think that he is the possibility to be the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year. And a big talking point I had, especially on TikTok, 5 of the last 9 seasons, the wide receiver 1 overall has been 23 or 24 years old and a pass-happy offense. And I related that to Puka Nacua earlier, but then later I realized Drake London fits all the same bills for that. We're hitting at above 50% rate that those kind of receivers are the top wide receiver in fantasy. So I love Drake London. And then real quick with George Pickens, because I be yapping, I think George Pickens is a phenomenal pickup for people this year. Contract season, he goes from, yes, he was the wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh, and now he's a wide receiver 2, but he's not going to get any wide receiver cornerback 1s. CeeDee Lamb's going to take all of that attention. And you get an upgrade at quarterback in Dak Prescott. You're going to be a pass-first team with a bad defense, like Pittsburgh, which was a run-first offense, but a really solid defense. So they're going to be throwing the football a lot. They don't have a running game. George Pickens, too, is going a little bit, obviously, 2 or 3 rounds later than Drake London. So I think that Pickens is another guy that if you go RB heavy early, why not scoop up George Pickens? He could be my wide receiver, too, and I will be happy with that in fantasy this season.
Yeah, Justin, first off for Drake London, I love that you brought up Puka Nacua because Drake London's offensive coordinator, I want to say Zach Robinson, he was in Los Angeles for Puka's rookie year as well a few years before for Cooper Kupp's historic Triple Crown year where they won the Super Bowl. So I definitely love it. I think that year 2 for this offensive staff, Raheem Morris as well, calling the shots. I feel like this is going to be really good. And then you throw in Michael Penix, who played for Washington, and it was a standout in Washington. I think he was a Heisman candidate. Yeah, he just had a rocket arm. And I still, Justin, won't forget what he did to my beloved UT Longhorns in the semifinals. He's got an arm, and it just fits right with Drake London, a game that I'm going to think about from last season when it comes to the Falcons. I had Bijan, and this game had really nothing to do with Bijan. It was a Sunday night in Washington where Penix and Jaden Daniels went head-to-head, and Drake London absolutely killed it. And then the next week, I think he had 170 yards. And it's just meant to be. I think Penix and Drake London is the connection for years to come in the ATL at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're going to be lighting it up year in and year out. As long as health gives them their way, Justin, they're going to be a spotlight. And you know what? I'll take it a step further. I think if they kill it this year, Drake London will be drafted this year or next year where Puka and Nico Collins is. So definitely expect Drake London to be drafted the back part of the first round in next year's drafts if they can light it up. And I think they're going to light it up week 1. I don't even got to go through their schedule. Week 1, they open against Tampa Bay. Shootout right there. Baker and Mike with Ibuka versus Penix, Robinson, and London week 1. It's going to be beautiful. I can't wait. And then on to George Pickens, Justin. I was actually thinking of putting him on this list. And I figured, you know what? I know my co-host is going to put him, and he did. And you know what? I could not agree more, Justin. You know what? Before this trade, I was not optimistic about this Cowboys offense at all. But when you added George Pickens, this changes this offense in so many ways, Justin. And I love it for shootouts, right? When you're in AT&T Stadium, and this happens a lot, I've been on record saying this, where the Cowboys, they go down 17-0. See every game against the Packers. See, games against the Falcons a few years ago in 2020 where, Dak Prescott led this amazing comeback. They're going to be throwing down. The running game isn't strong enough, and Pickens is going to get just as much as CeeDee Lamb. They're going to be, it's going to be one ends with 100 and a touchdown, one ends with a touchdown and 80. It's going to be identical fantasy. One will have more receptions, one will have more yards, but I think at the end of the day, they'll have about the same amount of touchdowns there, Justin. But regardless, Pickens is going to kill it this year. I just love that the Cowboys just get into shootouts. And it's just kind of the good old days where they had Tony Romo with Dez Bryant and Miles Austin. One last thing, I was looking through old fantasy drafts, like 07 through like 2012. And, there was Dez Bryant who got picked in the first round, kind of like CeeDee Lamb. And then there was Miles Austin who got picked like in the 5th or 6th round. And it's just like George Pickens. History repeats itself. And Dak Prescott kind of around the same time where Tony Romo was picked. And that's kind of like how it is today. I'm excited for this offense. I got Dak week 1 against Philly. I hope they light it up, and I hope George Pickens is too.
No, and that's really good that you brought up the past because there's two other instances too that I was thinking about. And it is one, Mike Evans. During the year Chris Godwin was the breakout wide receiver, Mike Evans was going as a top 10 wide receiver. Chris Godwin becomes a stud and outscores Mike Evans in fantasy. And then that happened in 2019. And then 2 years later, we saw it happen in Atlanta, where Julio Jones is obviously the number one guy going in the first round. And Calvin Ridley outscored him as the wide receiver 2 that season. So I think that George Pickens, I'm not saying is going to outscore CeeDee Lamb. I don't want to go crazy like that. But in this kind of offense with that skill set, I think he's going to be great. We'll keep it rolling with your wide receiver league winner and Malik Nabers.
Boy, Justin, I am so disappointed that I did not get to draft Malik Nabers. We do have one more draft that we'll be broadcasting for you, Dewey Nation. Right. And if I don't get Malik Nabers, I might have a 2-year-old temper tantrum because, Justin, I need every share of Malik Nabers. And here's the main reason why. Yes, he had a great rookie year. Yes, he's from LSU. But it's every single quarterback on the depth chart can get him the football. Russell Wilson, I remember I had Russell and DK Metcalf a few years ago. They were money. Russell Wilson to Doug Baldwin 10 years ago. This time, money, Justin. And then you look down the depth chart. Jameis Winston, famous Jameis. He's still the man. We all love Jameis Winston. Who can forget last year where Jerry Jeudy torched his former team, torched Pat Surtain, and got 200 yards. That's all Jameis Winston, baby. And, 1 year I was able to win a fantasy championship because of Mike Evans via Jameis Winston. This wasn't Tom Brady, Mike Evans. This was Jameis Winston, 30 touchdowns, 30 picks, Jameis Winston. And then last quarterback on the depth chart, they did get rid of Tommy DeVito, but their first-round pick, Jackson Dart, who had a fantastic preseason. If there was a preseason MVP, Justin, I'd give it to Jackson Dart. He was phenomenal. He shows that he has an arm. He made plays. And there's no doubt he's going to be able to get the ball to Malik Nabers. So it does not matter what quarterback it is, Justin. Malik Nabers is going to get his targets. He's going to get his share. He's going to be leaving with something. He's going to have his dinner, his comeuppance, whatever, Justin. He's going to get his targets. And I just love that the Giants aren't the most competitive team. They're trying to prove a point. And you know what, Justin? They have a schedule that could rely on them just throwing it a lot, Justin, all right? So they open up at Washington. Who knows? Maybe Washington goes up 20-0, and it's all Russell or Jameis trying to catch up. Then they go to Dallas, right, where we're not really sure about that offense, right? And then they go to Kansas City. They're home at Kansas City, home with the Chargers. Then they get the Saints week 5. I love it, Justin. And if I were to look down at the playoff schedule, they got Washington in the first round, and then Minnesota, the semis, and then the Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas for championship weekend, which no weather conditions you got to worry about. By then, it could be Jackson Dart. It could be Jameis. It don't matter. Any one of them is going to be feeling the hot hand, and that's why Malik Neighbors will win you a fantasy championship if you get him.
I think that's really great, and I think that Neighbors is already solidified himself as a top 8 wide receiver in this league, just in skill set. Like, he showed out last year, and he showed big time potential, and that was with Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, and that's not good. But this year, right, there's improvements there. Wilson, Jameis, even Dart. So I think that's really good for him. And even in 2 less games, he played 15 games last season and was still second in the league in targets. So he gets, he is the de facto one and by far going to out-receive all people around him. I mean, his competition is Wandale, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Hyatt and Theo Johnson. Like, that's nothing. Those are donuts compared to a 3-course meal with a steak from Malik Neighbors. Like, he is going to ball out. The only trepidations I have had is the training camp. He's been injured throughout training camp. They brought up the little toe thing. Supposedly he's been dealing with that for years, even since LSU. So, like, that thing I don't want to worry too much about. I hate that he has that injury. And then obviously he's had the shoulder injury throughout camp. But obviously, injury aside, barring injury, he is going to be a top 5, top 7 wide receiver in fantasy football. I think that you make a great point with the schedule and the fact that the defense is, at the end of the day, still going to give up a lot of points, and this team's going to have to throw the ball a ton. So I think you're right on the money with that. I feel like literally the only reasons I have not gotten him in drafts that I've been in is because I'm nitpicking with the injuries. That's why I've gone like guys right around him, Nico Collins or even Drake London, who I just discussed. And even I'd go Neighbors over Brian Thomas, but like those 2 guys are ones that I've taken over Neighbors just because of the preseason injuries, and that's very small. But to me, when you're up that high in drafts, you're nitpicking through stuff. But I think that he's a great pick to have. And I think you're on the money there with Malik Neighbors. I'll take over for tight end league winner. My tight end league winner this season is George Kittle. And yes, the biggest discrepancy we've had, because you had him on our bus show and I have him here for my league winner. And the reason for that is last year he was the tight end 1 in points per game. He missed a couple games. That's why he didn't pass up guys like Bowers and McBride. But in points per game, he was the top guy. And you look at this season, the 49ers, they have to improve. Last year was a 6-win wash of a season. And this year, losing, Deebo Samuel trading Deebo Samuel and having Brandon Ayuk miss, probably the first 6 to 8 games, most likely. George Kittle's the number 1 target for this team, in my opinion. I think that in games where there was no Deebo or Ayuk in the past, George Kittle was phenomenal. And I think he's also just a really fun guy to have on your fantasy football teams. He runs through the defensive player. He's not looking at a defensive player. He's looking through a defensive player. And yes, that's caused injuries in the past, but I think he's just so talented. And obviously the value in fantasy draft still helps me with this decision because I think he's literally in that same tier with Brock Bowers, with Trey McBride, yet he's going 10 picks behind both of them. So I think Kittle, on a team that I think the 49ers defense takes a step back, plus the loss of other pass catchers that have been, stable worse on the team, George Kittle's the guy. And they're going to be successful running the football, and that's going to open things up in the passing lanes for George Kittle. Brock Purdy and him have a great connection, and I think that's why I have him as a league winner for myself.
Yeah, Justin, I understand all the hype by George Kittle. Definitely one of the best tight ends of this, I guess, decade, this era. But I'm just so pessimistic about the 49ers. It's just, I guess, I don't know what it is. I guess they have a good year every other year. I just hope they can get it together. Obviously, injuries is the biggest fault. Maybe the Super Bowl loss 2 years ago has kind of just shot them down, maybe lost their confidence a little. But you're right. I mean, George Kittle, he's been in some ways consistent when he's healthy. He just gets hurt. And I'm just concerned that he's going to be the only guy there in San Fran that Brock Purdy is going to throw to. But you know what? I'm going to be a little optimistic. If I in the next and final draft, if I do get the opportunity, I will draft him. If it's the 4th round, maybe 5th, maybe I'll draft him. I don't know if he'll last that long. I mean, he's a great tight end, great talent. I'm just a little concerned that he's going to be the only guy in San Francisco to throw to. And he might be battling injuries, and who knows if Purdy is the guy. There's still some questions. I know he led him to a Super Bowl, but still, there's some questions about Purdy. There's some questions about Shanahan. I don't know. Hopefully, these questions will be answered by the end of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, the two valid concerns with Kittle is age and injury history. He's going to be 32 by like week 4, so he's going to turn 32 during the season. And yeah, he has a pretty extensive injury history. But the last 2 years he's played, I believe, 14 plus games, 15 plus games. He's played, the last 4 seasons he's played 14 plus games. So I think the narrative, which I think is still a valid concern to have, but the narrative has, to me, worn off a little bit because he missed, last year he only missed 2 games. But you'll take that. I'll take that from a guy who, to me, when he's on the field, is giving you 12 plus points a game, and that's what really all you can ask for at the tight end position. So that's why I got Kittle. We'll throw to you as our last league-winning player for 2025 in TJ Hockenson.
Yeah, Justin, I was so happy that I was able to get him in our elite league, in our 12-man league. I think he's going to be a PPR machine. He might not end up with 100 yards or maybe multiple touchdown games, but he'll give you about 6 or 7 catches, 80 yards. He's going to be a security blanket, I believe, for J.J. McCarthy as he gets his way rolling. And not to mention, today, they just traded for Adam Thielen, so that's another target now that defenses got to worry about. Old man Thielen is back in Minnesota, and I feel like defenses are not going to know how to cover this Minnesota offense, which makes me feel even better about TJ Hockenson, even with Jordan Addison being suspended the first couple weeks. And even when he comes back, I still think that Hockenson can be a great scoring tight end. Might not give you touchdowns, but points per game as a tight end will be really good. It kind of reminds me of Evan Ingram in Jacksonville, where Trevor Lawrence and this offense is really good. They're going to win the division, and they just got a ton of talent around them. And you see, Evan Ingram have a great year, and I think Hockenson is going to have a similar thing. He's only a year or 2 already removed from that injury, ACL injury. So I think he's going to really be good, Justin. I think that he's going to get a ton of targets, red zone targets. I mean, you name it, Hockenson will get it all, and I won't be surprised if he ends the season top 5 in tight ends and scoring points per game.
Yeah, I think Hawkinson's a really great pick. I do personally. I think the Thielen addition slightly hurts his value just because Thielen is also a short, intermediary catch guy, and that's where Hawkinson's going to operate. But Thielen's old. I know he has, he's been in the system before years ago. But Hawkinson's obviously been there most recently and been there throughout all of training camp. I think there's definitely going to be a ramp-up period for Thielen. But Hockenson, man, I mean, we J.J. McCarthy is quarterback, yes, and people are skeptical, which is a valid concern to have. But J.J. McCarthy, I think if he even hits to the level that Darnold did, which I think he could definitely be better, that's only going to be good things for Hockenson. You're right. He's now 2 years removed from his injury. I think it was an ACL injury as well. So that was a big injury. He actually came back earlier than expected, which, yes, is cool because, hey, man, he recovered fast. But also I think it even requires a longer ramp-up time because he's sometimes you're ahead of the schedule too much, and that ends up hurting your on-field performance because that's not where you were supposed to be. And I think that's why last year's numbers weren't as exciting as in previous years. But if you look at his ADP as well, he was going at tight end 4 for a while. He's dropped to tight end 6. So he's even becoming more valuable for you in leagues. And another cool thing I like about JJ McCarthy, I'm a believer in him, of course, but his top target at Michigan for 2 years was Colston Loveland. He had a tight end that he was able to rely on. TJ Hawkinson's a super skilled tight end, probably top 5 to 7 in skill set in the league. And I think that this offense is not going to take a step backward in 2025, even though there's a change at quarterback, even though he's in essentially a rookie season for McCarthy. I think that this team's going to still be really solid in a super competitive division. So I agree with you. I think this is a great pick. I think we've made all perfect picks for our league winners because these are guys I'm scooping up in drafts because, I just can't – when you leave drafts without these players, it hurts. It hurts the soul. It hurts the heart because you know that these guys are going to step up and be great players and somebody else is going to reap the benefits of players that you really believed in. That's why I don't hate when some people reach on a guy they really, really believe in. That's what I did with Chris Godwin. I mean, he's my favorite player in history now because of that, because he's a guy that you dove deeper into, you picked him, you believed in him, others didn't, and it worked out. I feel like that's with Hawkinson right now. I feel like he's going super under the radar. But yeah, I think, Dwayne Nation, these are our league winners, are my guys for the 2025 football season for your fantasy drafts. I know a good amount of you have already had your drafts. So I hope you were able to draft these guys. But if you have a draft this weekend, please utilize the tools we have granted and go out there and win your fantasy championships. But Dwayne Nation, we really appreciate you guys staying tuned to us. We're continuing to grow. Our TikTok numbers are boosting up, which is freaking exciting. It gives me so much juice to keep doing it every single day with you, my brother Genoa. So fun to talk about my guys. We're going to have the live stream for our draft this weekend. We got one more draft, lined up, and we're going to walk through the entire thing in mid-draft, which is the most fun because drafting is the most fun. And now we're actually, instead of doing mock drafts, which are also a lot of fun, we're doing a real draft that we are going to, we'll win money out of because we're freaking awesome at what we do. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation. Thank you for watching. Very well said, Justin. There's nobody I'd rather do it with you, my brother. So let's keep it going. It's going to be a fun season, guys. 1 week away. Let us know what your fantasy picks are, what your league winners are there. We're so excited, man. Let us know, or some sleepers as well on this episode. And yes, we will have a live draft there for you guys to see how we pick and all. Thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.